My name is Harper. I'm 26, and a few days before Christmas, I watched my own mother clutch her suitcase at the airport check-in desk and gasp, "What? This can't be happening!" She had spent weeks planning to dump 5 kids on me over Christmas while she escaped to a cozy resort, but I changed my plans. And if you've ever wondered what happens when the reliable daughter finally stops playing along, you're about to find out. That moment at the airport didn't come out of nowhere. It started the afternoon I dragged myself home from a long shift, dreaming about leftovers and silence. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, heard shrieking laughter behind my door, and froze. I live alone. I pay for that peace with every exhausted bone in my body. So why did it sound like a daycare exploded in my living room? My key slid into the lock, but the door was already slightly open. My stomach dropped. I pushed it wider and got hit by chaos. Toys everywhere, suitcases stacked by the wall, cartoon music blaring from the TV. A toddler ran past me in a diaper, clutching a sticky candy cane. On my couch lounged my sister, shoes off, scrolling her phone like she owned the place. In my kitchen, my mother stirred a pot, humming like this was her housewarming party. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice shaking. My sister just shrugged. My mother turned, smiling like she'd done me a favor. "Surprise. We needed somewhere to stay. And your family. Of course you'll help. It's only for the holidays. 5 kids. That's nothing for you." My eyes flashed to my front door, to the lock. "How did you even get in here?" My mother's smile sharpened. "Oh, that? I made a copy of your keys the last time I was helping you move. Don't be so dramatic, Harper. Family shares? Have you ever felt your own home stop feeling like yours in a single sentence? Have you ever realized your family sees your independence as free storage and free childcare?" Right then, standing in my own hijacked apartment, I decided she was going to regret ever touching my keys. Stay to the end, because the way I flipped her perfect Christmas plan on its head turned her "you'll watch 5 kids for me" fantasy into a nightmare she never saw coming. The day had actually started like every other pre-holiday workday. I was exhausted, sure, but I felt proud. My small apartment might not look like much to anyone else, but it was mine. My name on the lease, my bills, my rules. No one slamming doors at 2 a.m., no screaming arguments in the kitchen, no guilt-tripping about whose turn it was to babysit. Growing up, that was my job. The built-in babysitter. If someone needed to be picked up, watched, fed, covered for, it was always me. Harper can help. Harper doesn't have kids, she has time. Harper, you're so good with them. You ever notice how "you're so good at it" really means we're going to keep dumping it on you? A week before the chaos in my apartment, my mom had called with her big idea. "Christmas is going to be so special this year," she said, sugar dripping off every word. "Your sister really needs a break. The kids are a handful, you know that. And your aunt is dropping her 2 off, and my friend Linda needs someone for her little boy while she works double shifts. So you'll have 5. Isn't that wonderful? Family all together. 5 kids, in my tiny apartment, while everyone else lounged around or ran off on holiday trips." "No," I said immediately. "I'm working extra shifts. I'm not turning my place into a free daycare. I'm not doing this again." She went quiet for a beat. I could almost hear the gears turning. "Harper, don't be selfish. It's just Christmas. You're single. You don't have plans. Family helps family." "Funny," I said, "because when I asked for help with my deposit, you said I needed to learn responsibility." "That's different," she snapped. "You're being dramatic. Have you ever noticed how selfish only shows up the second you stop sacrificing yourself for everyone else?" I hung up that call thinking it was over. I'd said no. Clear boundary, end of story. But my mom doesn't hear no. She hears challenge accepted. When I walked into my apartment that day and saw my sister sprawled on my couch, kids everywhere, I understood exactly what had happened. My mom had decided to skip my consent and go straight to control. Why argue when you can just copy keys and move an entire circus into someone else's space while they're at work? I shut the door behind me, jaw clenched. You cannot just move in here, I said, trying to keep my voice level. This is my apartment, my lease. You're not on it. My sister didn't even look up from her phone. Mom said it's fine, it's only for a while. We'll be out after the holidays. I turned to my mother, who was busy rearranging my kitchen cabinets like she was auditioning for a makeover show. You copied my keys without asking and moved people into my home without permission. That's not family, that's trespassing. She rolled her eyes. Oh, please, no one is trespassing. We're family. Your sister is in a tough spot, and those kids need somewhere to sleep. You have a spare room you never use. You're not married, you don't have kids. Your place is practically wasted on you. You'll watch them while we get everything sorted out. And at Christmas, you'll have all 5. It will be fun. Fun! A kid screamed in the hallway. Something crashed in my bedroom, and a wave of rage washed over me so hard my hands shook. I didn't agree to this, I said. Any of it. You had no right. Don't start, she warned. If you call the landlord, I'll tell him I'm just here visiting my daughter for the holidays. He'll take my side. You want to be the one who kicked your own family out right before Christmas? What will people think about you then? And there it was. Image, reputation, the weapon she loved most. Have you ever realized your family cares more about what neighbors think than how you feel in your own home? I stared at her, at the kids, at the mess. I could shout. I could dial the police right now. I could drag suitcases back out into the hall. But everything in me screamed that if I reacted on impulse, she'd twist it. I'd become the villain in her story again. So instead, I swallowed the first wave of fury and did something that surprised even me. Fine, I said slowly. If you're going to ignore my boundaries, then I'll handle it my way. Her eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I forced a calm smile. It means you've just turned my Christmas upside down, so I'm going to return the favor. In that moment, I stopped being the desperate daughter begging to be respected. I became something else. The one writing the script. The one planning what would happen at that airport check-in desk. For the next 2 days, I played along just enough to keep suspicion low. Not happy, not compliant, just contained. I went to work. I came home to toys on the floor and crumbs in my bed and kids screaming like my walls were soundproof. My sister flopped from couch to phone call to nap. My mother barked orders at everyone but herself. And somehow every problem still ended up at my feet. Harper, can you run to the store? Harper, can you watch them while I take this call? Harper, you're so much better at calming them down. You ever get the sense that people confuse your competence with consent? I started noticing details, storing them away like evidence. My mom bragging on the phone about how smart she was to copy my keys, just in case. My sister laughing about not having to pay rent, because Harper's place is big enough. The kids' overnight bags lined up by my front door, like this had been planned for days. One night, while they were distracted by a Christmas movie marathon, I locked myself in my bedroom, opened my laptop, and started researching. Tenant rights, unauthorized occupants, key duplication without permission, liability for leaving children unsupervised. My eyes burned, but the more I read, the colder I felt. My lease was crystal clear. No additional long-term occupants without written approval from the landlord. No giving out keys, no subletting, and the person listed as my co-signer and emergency contact? My mother. It hit me like a slap. She had leveraged her name to get me approved for this place, then used that same access to slip in sideways and treat my apartment like hers. What would happen if the landlord found out it was all her idea? For the first time, I saw an opening. If she wanted control, she could have all of it, with the consequences attached. Have you ever fantasized about turning someone's manipulation back on them? Not out of pettiness, but because it's the only language they seem to understand? I started documenting everything. I recorded audio, her bragging about the copied keys, about moving everyone in while Harper's stuck at work. I took photos of the extra mattresses, the overcrowded rooms, the hallway blocked with suitcases. I saved texts where she ordered me around like staff. Then I looked at my calendar. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. The days she expected me to be locked in here with 5 kids while she floated around posting blessed family time captions. The more I pictured it, the clearer my revenge became. First, I called my landlord. Not to rat them out. Not yet. I played the concerned tenant. Hey, I've noticed some issues with the lock. Could we maybe schedule a routine inspection around the holidays? I just want to make sure everything's safe. I know you're strict about occupancy too, so I want to make sure I'm compliant. Compliance. Landlords love that word. He agreed to stop by Christmas Eve morning. Perfect. Next, I moved every important document, every valuable item, anything I cared about, to a friend's place. If chaos was about to explode, I wanted my life packed away somewhere safe. Then I made my own Christmas plans. Not the watch 5 kids for free plan my mother had written for me. My plan. A hotel room booked across town for 2 nights, my phone ready, my evidence organized in a neat little folder I titled Keys, and one more call to a non-emergency child welfare line, asking hypothetically what happened if a guardian left multiple kids in an overcrowded, unauthorized apartment with someone who'd tried to say no. Document everything, the woman on the line said. If you're concerned, you can always report, especially if you're being forced into a childcare role you didn't consent to. I hung up, my chest tight but steady. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready to pull that trigger. But knowing I could, that changed everything. By the time Christmas week rolled around, my mother thought she'd won. She'd turned my spare room into a bunkhouse, shoved my things into boxes, and started telling extended family that Harper finally stepped up for the holidays. I smiled, nodded, and let her believe it. Because if she wanted to make me the responsible one in this story, then she was about to find out what happens when the responsible one decides she's done playing nice. Christmas Eve was coming. My landlord was on his way, and I was ready to let my mom's own actions write the ending she deserved. Christmas Eve morning, my alarm went off to the sound of kids already screaming in the living room. I lay there for a second, staring at the ceiling, listening to the chaos rattle my walls. My mom was barking orders, my sister whining, cartoons blasting. Harper, you're going to watch them while I run a few last-minute errands, right? She called through my door like I was some employee on call. Sure, I said casually, pulling on jeans. I'll be around. Not exactly a lie. I would be around. Just not in the way she expected. At 10 sharp there was a knock at the door. My heart did a backflip. I already knew who it was. I'll get it, I said quickly, beating my mom to the handle. I stepped into the hall and pulled the door open just enough. My landlord stood there with a clipboard and that polite smile people wear when they're deciding how angry they should be. "Morning, Harper," he said. "Just here for that inspection you asked about." "Perfect timing," I replied. "Come on in." My mom appeared behind me, her face freezing when she saw him. "Oh, hello," she said, sugar-coating her voice. We weren't expecting visitors. He glanced past us into the living room. Toys everywhere. Extra mattresses, piles of suitcases. Kids running wild. His brows shot up. "Looks busy in here." "It's just family," she jumped in. "We're here for the holidays. Very temporary." I stayed quiet, watching. I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was let the truth sit in the room. He flipped through his paperwork. "Harper is the only person listed on this lease. We have a strict policy on additional occupants and key control. You're aware of that, right?" he asked, looking at me. I met his eyes. "I am. I never gave out keys or asked for anyone to move in long-term." I let that hang. His gaze shifted back to my mom. "So how did you all get in?" She laughed too loud. "Oh, you know, she gave me a spare ages ago, just in case. We're very close. It's family, not like strangers." My stomach twisted, but I kept my face neutral. She'd just admitted it, out loud, in front of the one person whose opinion actually mattered in this building. He didn't smile. We don't allow unauthorized key duplication or unapproved additional occupants. This many people in a two-bedroom violates our occupancy guidelines, and frankly, it's a liability. Harper, has this been going on long? There it was. The choice. I could protect her image again, or I could tell the truth. Have you ever felt that tiny moment where you realize you're about to stop protecting someone who would never do the same for you? I took a breath. She moved my sister and the kids in while I was at work last week. I said no. They stayed anyway. I've been trying to figure out how to fix it without causing trouble, but I gestured around. This is where we are. My mom stared at me like I'd slapped her. Harper, she hissed. What are you doing? The landlord's jaw tightened. This is a serious violation. We could terminate the lease over this, especially if the co-signer was the one who abused their access. He looked right at her. You're the co-signer, correct? Her face went pale. We're just here for Christmas. She's overreacting. She always overreacts. He scribbled something on his clipboard. You'll need to clear everyone who isn't on the lease out of here immediately, or we'll discuss next steps after the holidays. But understand, any damage, noise complaints, or liability from this situation will fall on the leaseholder and co-signer of record. His words landed like a hammer. Leaseholder, me, co-signer, her. For once, the consequences weren't imaginary, and she knew it. After he left, my mom whirled on me. I can't believe you made me look bad in front of your landlord. Do you know what this could do to my credit if they put something on my record? To my name? To my job? I stared at her. You mean the same job you used as an excuse to dump 5 kids on me for Christmas? The same name you used to get me this place, and then used again to sneak in? She opened her mouth, closed it again. My sister tried to smooth it over. It's fine. We'll keep it down. We'll be out soon. Don't be dramatic, Harper. I'm actually being very calm, I said. And I'm done covering for you. Tomorrow is Christmas, and you're still planning to go out of town and leave all 5 kids with me, right? Of course, my mom said, like it was obvious. Everything's already booked. You'll be here. You have no plans. It's settled. I smiled then, really smiled, because now everything was in place. Right, I said. It's settled. She didn't know that my bag was already packed at my friend's place. She didn't know about the hotel reservation. She didn't know that the landlord had written up an incident report with her name all over it. She didn't know that on Christmas Day, the story she thought she was directing would flip on her in front of everyone. Christmas morning, my phone lit up at 6 a.m. with a text from my mom. We'll drop the kids off by 8. Be ready. We're heading to the airport at 10. Don't be late. No, please. No, thank you. Just orders. As if my only purpose on December 25th was to clock in as unpaid childcare. I sat in my quiet hotel room across town, coffee in hand, staring at that message. My apartment was empty. My keys were in my pocket. The locks? Changed yesterday afternoon by a very understanding locksmith, once I showed him my lease and ID. Want to keep your copies restricted? He'd asked. Oh, I'd said, I really, really do. Have you ever felt the strange calm that comes right before you finally enforce a boundary you've only talked about for years? At 7:45, I headed back toward my building, heart steady. I didn't go inside. Instead, I waited in my car, parked where I could see my front door. Snowflakes drifted down, the kind of pretty, gentle snow that makes everyone post about holiday magic. At 8:05, my mom's minivan pulled up, packed to the roof with luggage and kids. My sister climbed out, already frazzled, kids tumbling after her, sugar high and loud. My mom got out too, dressed like she was heading to a photo shoot instead of a crowded airport. They marched up to my door, kids dragging backpacks, a toddler half asleep on my mom's shoulder. I watched as she jammed her old copied key into the lock, turned it, stopped, tried again. Her shoulders stiffened. She tried harder, jiggled the handle, knocked. Harper, she shouted. Open the door, stop playing games. My sister looked confused. Maybe she's in the shower? She knew we were coming. My mom snapped. She can't be that irresponsible. I stepped out of my car and started walking toward them. The air felt sharp and clean in my lungs. Looking for something, I called. They both spun around. Where have you been? My mom demanded. We've been banging on the door. The key isn't working. Did you break the lock? I changed it, I said simply. Because someone copied my keys without permission and moved people into my home behind my back. The landlord didn't love that. Her face flushed. You did what? Harper, we don't have time for this. We have a flight. Just open the door. We'll drop the kids, and you can sulk later. I stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the panic starting to flicker behind her eyes. I'm not opening that door, I said. I'm not watching 5 kids for free while you jet off to post pictures about how blessed you are. I told you no. You ignored me. You copied my keys. You risked my lease, my home, my sanity. So I made other plans. My sister stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Harper, you can't just abandon us. I need this break. I thought you understood. I do understand, I said. I understand you keep making messes and expecting me to fix them. I understand Mom keeps volunteering me without asking. And I understand that the moment I say no, I'm suddenly the villain. I'm just done playing that role. The kids watched, confused, small faces peeking between winter coats. I felt a pang of guilt, but it was aimed squarely at the adults who had dragged them into this, not at myself. My mom stepped closer, lowering her voice into that cold, sharp tone I knew too well. What exactly is your plan here, Harper? You think this is revenge? You think making this difficult for us will teach us a lesson? We'll miss our flight. The kids will be devastated. People will judge you. You'll look unhinged. She always went for the same spots: guilt, image, fear. I pulled my phone from my pocket. My plan, I said, was to finally let your choices catch up to you. So I already messaged the landlord that the unauthorized occupants have left. I sent him the recordings of you bragging about copying my keys. He knows this was your idea. If any fees or violations hit, they won't be a surprise. Her eyes widened. You recorded me? Repeatedly, I said. And I backed up everything. You put your name on my lease to control me. You used that access to invade my home. So if the lease gets marked, if your credit takes a hit, if your precious reputation at work gets a little stain on it for abusing your role as co-signer, well, actions, consequences. My sister gasped. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? I asked quietly. You moved into my life like it was an empty spare room waiting for your chaos. You both treated me like free labor. What would you do if a boss treated you that way? If a landlord treated you that way? Have you ever noticed how people suddenly understand no the second there's a real consequence attached to ignoring it? My mom's phone buzzed. She glanced down, and I saw her flinch. Who is it? I asked. The landlord? She didn't answer, but I knew I was right. I had sent him a polite heads up. My mother and sister may try to get into the apartment today with an old key. I've changed the locks for safety. If they contact you, you now have full context. I've attached proof of unauthorized key duplication and occupancy. Harper? My mom said slowly. You are not thinking this through. This could hurt me? At work. With my credit. With the bank. They look at those records. That's the point, I said. Because you never listened when I said it hurt me. Losing sleep, losing privacy, losing my home. You only care when something threatens you back. Cars started pulling into other spots, neighbors stepping out with gifts and casseroles. People glanced our way, curious. My mom noticed them too. I saw the panic sharpen into something brittle. Can we talk about this inside? She hissed. Away from everyone? I'm not letting you inside, I repeated. Not with 5 kids and a suitcase of plans you wrote with my time. There's a hotel 20 minutes from here that takes walk-ins. Or you can cancel your trip and stay with your kids. Those are your options. She stared at me, breathing hard. You're really going to make me miss this vacation. You're really going to keep pretending this is about a vacation, I shot back, and not about the fact that you tried to hijack my life again. She looked at her watch, then at the kids, then at me. For the first time I could remember, she looked cornered. Not because I'd yelled, not because I'd begged, but because I'd calmly stepped out of the role she'd assigned me and refused to step back in. Finally, she did what she always does when she can't win. She went for the performance. Fine, she announced loudly, as if narrating for the neighbors. We'll figure it out. But don't come crying to me when you're old and alone because you pushed your family away. Come on, kids. She started herding them back to the van, ranting under her breath. My sister glared at me like I'd personally ruined her life. I let them go. No last-minute rescue. No, wait. I'll do it. I stood there in the cold until the van pulled out of the lot and disappeared down the street. Only then did I let my hands shake. Only then did I let myself feel the cocktail of relief and grief and fear. Had I just blown up my entire family? Would they ever speak to me again? Did I even want them to, if this was the price? But under all of that, there was something else. A strange, fierce quiet. The knowledge that, for once, my Christmas belonged to me. And I knew this wasn't over. She still had a flight booked. She would still go to the airport. She would still try to salvage her perfect holiday story. She just didn't know that the story she told there wouldn't be the one she expected either. I didn't go back to the hotel right away after they drove off. I sat in my car for a long time, watching the empty spot where their van had been, feeling like I'd just ripped a bandage off a wound that had been festering for years. You know that weird mix of guilt and relief you feel when you finally do the thing you've been afraid of for so long? That was me, sitting in a quiet parking lot on Christmas morning, holding my new keys like they were proof I existed outside of the reliable one. Around 9, I drove to the airport. Not because I wanted to stop them. Not because I was secretly hoping to swoop in and save their vacation. I went because I wanted to see, with my own eyes, what happened when I refused to be the safety net. My mom had bragged about the resort, the connecting flights, the airline, the departure time. She loved details when she was the star of the story. I'd booked a cheap last-minute flight to a smaller city leaving later that afternoon. Nothing fancy, just a couple of days away where no one knew my name. Same terminal, same airline. The airport was packed with families in ugly sweaters and glittery gift bags, kids trailing stuffed animals, couples posing for selfies in front of the giant Christmas tree. I spotted my mom and sister in the check-in line almost immediately. My mom always dressed like she was on a commercial when she traveled. Perfect hair, coordinated luggage, loud voice. There she was, at the counter, kids fidgeting around her, my sister juggling boarding passes and snacks. From where I stood off to the side, I could see the agent's tight smile and the way my mom's posture slowly stiffened. At first, it looked normal. Passports, IDs, the usual. Then the agent frowned at the screen. Typed again. "I'm sorry," I heard the agent say, voice apologetic but firm. "There's an issue with the card used to secure the booking. It's been flagged. We can't complete check-in until another form of payment is provided." My mom blinked. "That can't be right. I've used this card for years. Run it again." The agent tried again, shook her head. "It's been temporarily blocked by the bank. You'll need to call them or use a different card." That's when my mom's phone buzzed. She checked the screen, and even from where I was standing, I could see her face drain of color. She tapped to open the email. I knew what it was. I'd seen the draft when my landlord forwarded me the final copy. A formal notice. Lease violation for unauthorized occupants and key misuse. A fine to be split between leaseholder and co-signer. A warning that any future co-signing privileges on properties managed by their company would be refused. And because she'd listed her employer as her character reference on the application, her corporate work email was copied too. Due to this violation, the letter said, we are obliged to inform your listed employer, as they were used as part of your financial credibility assessment. In other words, her little habit of tossing her name around like a golden ticket had finally backfired, right where it hurt her most, her image and her career. My mom's hand shook as she read. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Another notification popped up. Then another. Her bank. Unusual activity related to a property lease has been reported. As a precaution, certain credit functions have been temporarily restricted. Translation: the bank didn't love seeing her wrapped up in a formal lease violation with liability attached. Her card, the one she used for the trip, had just been partially frozen while they reviewed things. The agent cleared her throat. Ma'am, do you have another card? We're holding up the line. My mom looked up, eyes wild. This can't be happening, she gasped. We're supposed to go. The kids, this trip. There it was. The line I'd heard echoing in my head from the moment I decided to fight back. What? This can't be happening. Except it wasn't a joke. It wasn't a punchline. It was the sound of someone finally feeling the weight of their own choices without a built-in daughter to cushion the fall. My sister stepped in, whispering urgently, Use your other card, the personal one. I can't, my mom hissed. If I max that one out, I won't make the payment on the car. And if my job sees this... She pressed her fingertips into her forehead. Why is the landlord emailing my work? Why is my card blocked? What did you do, Harper? She said my name like a curse, and that's when she finally saw me. I didn't flinch. I walked closer, staying clear of the line but close enough that she couldn't pretend she hadn't noticed me. What did you do? She repeated, voice low and sharp. I told the truth, I said. To the landlord, to the bank, when they called to verify. To anyone who asked who copied my keys and moved 5 unauthorized occupants into my apartment. You used your name to get leverage over me. The consequences landed on that same name. Her jaw clenched. You wanted to ruin my trip. No, I said. I wanted to stop you from ruining my life. The trip is collateral damage. My sister stepped forward, eyes flashing. You're unbelievable. You could have just watched them for a few days. Now Mom's in trouble, the kids are upset, and everyone's staring at us. She gestured at the crowd. People were definitely watching. It's hard to ignore that much tension in a check-in line. Ask yourself something, I said quietly, looking between them. If I were a stranger, a neighbor, a co-worker, would you ever think it was okay to copy their keys, move your entire family into their home without permission, and then demand free childcare while you took a luxury vacation? Or is it only okay because it's me? My sister's mouth opened, then closed again. My mom tried to regroup, smoothing her hair, forcing a brittle smile at the agent. We're just having a little family disagreement, she said. I'll fix it. She turned back to me, lowering her voice. You are not going to let this ruin everything. You're going to call the landlord and tell him you overreacted. You're going to tell the bank it was a misunderstanding. You're going to fix this, Harper. There it was again. The command. The assumption that I existed to clean up after her. I shook my head. No, I'm not. I've spent years fixing things I didn't break for you. Covering, babysitting, making you look good. This time, the mess has your name on it. And it's going to stay there. Her eyes glistened, more with anger than real tears. Do you have any idea what this could do to me? If my boss sees this email? If the bank flags my account? If anyone thinks I'm irresponsible? You are irresponsible, I said softly. You breached a lease. You endangered my housing. You tried to force me into unpaid labor by abusing access. I didn't do this to you. You did this to you. I just stopped taking the blame. The agent coughed gently. I'm going to have to ask you to step aside while you make some calls, she said to my mom. We can't hold the line up any longer. The kids started getting restless, tugging at sleeves, asking if they were still going on the plane. My sister looked overwhelmed. A small, mean part of me wanted to walk away without another word, to let them sit there in that mess and figure it out alone. But revenge, for me, wasn't about leaving children stranded in an airport. It was about forcing the adults in my family to finally own their choices. "There's a family lounge over there," I said quietly, nodding toward a sign. "You can sit, call the bank, figure out if you're canceling or rebooking. I already booked my own trip. I'll be gone for a few days. When I come back, my apartment will still be my apartment. No extra keys, no surprise guests." My mom stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, not as the backup parent, not as the emotional sponge, not as the maid, as an adult who had finally stepped out from under her thumb. "You're really doing this," she whispered. "I am," I said. "And when I get back, if you want any kind of relationship with me, we're going to have to talk about boundaries like adults. No more copying keys, no more volunteering me, no more guilt tripping. I want an apology, in words, not just tears. And I want you to pay for the lock change, the hotel I had to book, and the time I lost dealing with your mess." She looked offended, like I had asked for the moon. "You want me to pay you?" "You tried to turn me into unpaid staff," I said. "Consider it a very late invoice." She didn't answer. She just looked at me, then at the screens flashing, "Payment declined," then at the kids tugging at her coat, whining about snacks and planes and presents. For once, there was no quick lie, no smooth spin, no easy way out. Just the simple, uncomfortable reality that she wasn't in control anymore. I picked up my backpack. "I need to get through security," I said. "My flight's in a couple of hours. Take care of the kids. Take care of your mess. I won't be fixing it this time." I turned and walked away. My heart was pounding, but not with panic, with something sharper, cleaner. Have you ever walked away from a situation you used to be chained to and realized the world didn't collapse, only the illusion of control someone else had over you? As I moved through security, shoes in hand, laptop in the tray, I glanced back one last time. My mom was on the phone, voice raised, my sister wrestling a crying toddler, the agent waving the next family forward. For the first time in my life, their chaos wasn't swallowing me whole. It was staying exactly where it belonged. With them. My flight wasn't glamorous. No first-class seat, no champagne, no dramatic window shots with perfect lighting. It was cramped, the snacks were terrible, and the kid behind me kicked my seat for half an hour straight. But I felt lighter than I had in years. I spent 2 nights in a cheap but clean hotel in a city I'd never really explored before. I walked aimlessly. I turned my phone on, do not disturb. I ate what I wanted, when I wanted, without planning around anyone else's schedule. On Christmas night, I lay on the hotel bed watching some cheesy holiday movie, my phone buzzing face down on the nightstand. I ignored most of it. When I finally flipped it over, there were messages. From my mom. "How could you do this to your own family on Christmas? You humiliated me." The landlord emailed my boss. I had to explain everything. "I might get written up for ethics concerns because of that stupid lease violation. You are ungrateful, after everything I've done for you." From my sister, "Mom had to cancel the resort. We spent the day in a cheap motel near the airport because she didn't want to go back home and face everyone. The kids cried when she told them the trip was off. They keep asking why you didn't help." And then, buried under all the noise, one more message from an unknown number. "Hi, Harper. This is your landlord's assistant. I just wanted you to know the incident has been logged primarily against your cosigner, as she admitted to authorizing the key copy and unauthorized occupancy. Your tenancy is secure as long as there are no further violations. Thank you for your cooperation and for taking your responsibilities seriously. Happy holidays." I stared at that last one for a long time. Someone, somewhere, saw me as responsible without also using that responsibility as a leash. It was weird and healing. When I checked social media, The holiday posts from my extended family had shifted tone too. No, so grateful for our amazing matriarch this Christmas. Captions. Just a few vague posts about family drama and learning hard lessons. I'd sent my own short message in the group chat before I'd turned my phone off. I didn't abandon anyone. Mom copied my keys without consent, broke into my apartment, and tried to force me to watch 5 kids for free over Christmas. I set a boundary. I'm available to talk if anyone wants the full story. A couple of cousins liked it. One aunt sent a quiet, private message. Good for you. She used to do the same thing to me when we were younger. Proud of you for saying no. Have you ever realized that the person who made you feel crazy for years has a history of doing the same thing to everyone else, only no one talked about it out loud? When I got back home, my apartment was exactly how I'd left it. No extra shoes by the door, no luggage, no sticky fingerprints on the walls. Just my space. The new lock clicked solidly behind me. I walked through each room slowly, like I was seeing it for the first time. My couch, my bed, my dishes stacked neatly in my own cabinets, not shoved aside to make room for someone else's temporary chaos. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my notebook. On one page, I wrote a title in big, messy letters. What I will and won't accept from family. Under it, I made 2 lists. Will, honest apologies, respect for my space, clear agreements about visits and responsibilities, conversations where my no is heard the first time. Won't, copied keys, surprise move-ins, being volunteered as free childcare, being guilted for living my own life, having my stability risked so someone else can feel in control. It felt childish at first, making lists like that. But I needed to see it on paper. I needed a reminder for the next time someone tried to rewrite reality. A few days later, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted, "I'm coming over. We need to talk." I replied, "No. We'll meet in a public place. You don't have a key anymore, and you're not getting one back. If you want to talk, we can get coffee on Saturday at 2 p.m. If you start yelling or guilt-tripping, I'll leave." There was a long pause. Then, fine. Saturday came. I got there early, sat with my back to the wall so I could see the door. She arrived 10 minutes late, looking older than I remembered. The kids weren't with her. No sister. Just my mom. Alone. She sat down without hugging me. "You really changed the locks," she said. "Yes," I said. "I really did." Silence stretched between us. For once, I didn't rush to fill it. Finally, she sighed. "My boss called me into his office," she said. "He'd seen the email. He said it raised concerns about my judgment, using my cosigner status like that. I might lose access to some of my privileges. The bank froze my card until I answered their questions. The resort wouldn't refund everything. Your sister is furious. The kids keep asking why we didn't go." I stirred my coffee. "I'm sorry the kids got caught in the middle," I said. "They didn't deserve that. But none of this would have happened if you'd listened when I said no the first time." She winced. "You sound like a therapist." "I finally started talking to one," I said. One of the things she asked me was, "If your mom was a landlord, would you sign a lease with her again?" You know what my answer was? My mom gave a hollow laugh. "No." "Exactly," I said. "You used your name to control me, then got angry when the consequences landed on that same name. You can't have it both ways. Either you're responsible or you're not. You don't get to be powerful when it benefits you, and helpless when it doesn't." She stared into her cup. "I didn't think it was a big deal," she muttered. "You're good with kids. You're always saying you're lonely at the holidays. I thought, this would give you something to do. And your sister is drowning." I was trying to help everyone. "By breaking into my apartment?" I asked. "By turning my home into a free daycare while you went to a resort? If a stranger did that, would you call it help?" She didn't answer. "Do you know how small I felt?" I went on, standing in my own living room, realizing you'd copied my keys without asking, Realizing you trusted your plan more than you trusted my boundaries? She swallowed. I don't like being told no. I know, I said. That's the problem. You treat no like an attack instead of information. Another long silence. Then, very quietly, she said, I'm sorry. It wasn't dramatic. There were no tears, no speeches, just two words she had never managed to say without a but attached. I waited. No but came. You put me in a position where I had to choose between protecting my housing and protecting your comfort, I said. I chose my housing. I'll keep choosing it. If you want to be in my life, you have to accept that. She nodded slowly. No more keys, she said. No more moving people in. If you say no, I'll try to hear it. Not try, I corrected. Do. And if you slip up, I walk away. Not as revenge, as self-preservation. We talked for a while longer. It wasn't a magic fix. Years of patterns don't disappear over one coffee. But it was the first time I'd ever sat across from her and felt like we were two adults negotiating, not a child pleading with a parent to be reasonable. As I walked home afterward, snow crunching under my boots, I looked up at my apartment building and felt something settle inside me. This wasn't just a place I slept anymore. It was a line in the sand, a boundary made of drywall and new locks and a spine I'd finally grown. My mom might still tell versions of the story where I'm ungrateful or cold. My sister might still insist I ruined Christmas. People always rewrite things to make themselves look better. But I know the truth. My mom secretly copied my apartment keys and tried to move my sister in while I was at work. She planned to dump 5 kids on me over Christmas while she sipped cocktails by a pool. So I changed my plans. I exposed what she'd done. I handed the consequences back to her. I refused to be the unpaid nanny, the silent cosigner of my own mistreatment. Was it revenge? Maybe. But it was also something else. It was the first time I chose myself. And if you've ever been the reliable one, the built-in babysitter, the person everyone counts on until you break, you know that sometimes the most radical revenge isn't destroying someone else's life. It's rebuilding your own without them in the center. So tell me, if your family copied your keys and tried to hijack your home and your holidays, would you walk away like I did? Or would you still be standing in that doorway, wondering when your own life gets to belong to you? Because I'm done wondering. I locked my door behind me, dropped my keys in the bowl by the entryway, and finally, let myself feel at home.